The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity, against all of you. For the last 8 years of my life, ever since I've hit puberty, I've been forced to endure an existence of loneliness, rejection, and unfulfilled desires, all because girls have never been attracted to me. Girls gave their affection and sex and love to other men, but never to me. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. I've never even kissed a girl. I've been through college for 2.5 years, more than that actually, and I'm still a virgin. That has been very torturous. College is the time when everyone experiences those things such as sex and fun and pleasure. But in those years, I've had to rot in loneliness. It's not fair. You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. It's an injustice, a crime, because I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy. And yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men instead of me, the supreme gentleman. I will punish all of you for it. On the day of retribution, I am going to enter the hottest sorority house of UCSB. And I will slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up, blonde slut I see inside there. All those girls that I've desired so much, they would have all rejected me and looked down upon me as an inferior man if I ever made a sexual advance towards them. While they throw themselves at these obnoxious brutes. I'll take great pleasure in slaughtering all of you. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male. Yes. After I've annihilated every single girl in the sorority house, I'll take to the streets of Isla Vista and slay every single person I see there. All those popular kids who live such lives of hedonistic pleasure while I've had to rot in loneliness for all these years. They've all looked down upon me every time I tried to go out and join them. They've all treated me like a mouse. Well, now, I will be a god compared to you. You will all be animals. You are animals, and I will slaughter you like animals. And I'll be a god, exacting my retribution on all those who deserve it. And you do deserve it, just for the crime of living a better life than me. All you popular kids, you've never accepted me. And now you'll all pay for it. And girls, all I've ever wanted was to love you and to be loved by you. I wanted a girlfriend. I've wanted sex. I've wanted love, affection, adoration. But you think I'm unworthy of it. That's a crime that can never be forgiven. If I can't have you, girls, I will destroy you. You denied me a happy life, and in turn, I will deny all of you life. It's only fair. I hate All of you. Humanity is a disgusting, wretched, depraved species. If I had it in my power, I would stop at nothing to reduce every single one of you to mountains of skulls and rivers of blood. And rightfully so. You deserve to be annihilated. And I will give that to you. You never showed me any mercy, and so I will show you none. You forced me to suffer all my life, and now I'll make you all suffer. I've waited a long time for this. I'll give you exactly what you deserve, all of you. All you girls who rejected me and looked down upon me and, treated me like scum while you gave yourselves to other men. And all of you men for living a better life than me. All of you sexually active men. I hate you. I hate all of you. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. Utter annihilation.
The picture that you're looking at is one Elliot Rodger, the Isla Vista shooter who was responsible for the deaths of several students on the campus of UC Santa Barbara 6 years ago. It is very cringeworthy to think how many more Elliot Rodgers are out there in this world, even now as we speak. Hi, I'm Mr. Franklin. Welcome to my channel. Today we'll discuss why there is no such thing as an incel. But before we do, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified of new videos posted weekly for your edutainment. Apparently there's a movement on the internet, on online community forums, where disgruntled, entitled, narcissistic Western men, among other men in general, are referring to themselves as incels. For those who don't know, incel is an abbreviation and really and truly a merger of the two words involuntary celibate. There are men who flock to social media, disgruntled, can't get laid, and they are referring to themselves as involuntary celibates or incels. They are not particularly taken seriously, although I think they should be taken seriously. Because if they believe that they are not heard, the end result is what you're seeing right now on your screen. Now let me give a disclaimer here. I am not advocating that what Elliot Rodger did was right. I understand that he was disgruntled. He was a tortured soul, and he was sick with his life, tired of living his life, as it were. But he could have went about it differently. But where I do give him credit is that he brought the incel issue to national attention. He gave it wind and it gained traction because of his actions. Innocent people did not have to die, including the shooter himself, in order for his message to be heard. This has not happened when we are not kind to each other as a society. You don't know who you're affecting and how they will react to what the treatment that they're receiving at the hands of society in general. Every single disgruntled white shooter in American history has had a history of mental disease, was disgruntled with life, tired of living, wanted attention, wanted to go out with a bang, wanted to make the national headlines, was very jaded with the mundane state of existence for which he was forced to endure. Every single shooter, the story is the same. We're talking about Columbine. We're talking about the shooter at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas about 3 or so years ago. We're talking about the Virginia Tech massacre. And finally, Isla Vista. But you see, as far as the incel situation is concerned in particular, there are two main contributors to the problem. And we're going to tackle both in tonight's podcast. The first of which is the disgruntled incel himself. Take, for instance, Elliot Rodger. Elliot Rodger bragged that he came from British aristocracy, and he can't see how one as fabulous as himself can get laid when quote-unquote ugly black boys can get pretty white girls. You see, Elliot Rodger's problem was not that he could not get laid. I'm sure there are girls who liked him, but he, being the narcissist that he was, he believed himself to be better than those girls who liked him. Elliot Rodger was obsessed. He was obsessed with rich little blonde girls. You heard what he said? Let me try and paraphrase what he said in the intro. He said, "I will find the hottest sorority club at UC Santa Barbara, and I will kill all the little hot blonde sluts who are running around like a bunch of sluts. How dare them reject me? I'm fabulous. I'm Mr. Fabulous. I'm so irresistible. Ooh, look at me." You heard what he said, right? So Roger's issue in particular was not particularly one of him not being able to get laid. It's one where he's not able to get the women who he believes himself to have deserved. He wanted the cream of the crop, the girls who he believed should have been exclusively available to him. Rich, white, blonde girls in particular. Girls who he felt entitled to. I'm sure that there are other girls who liked Elliot Rodger. Whether they were poor white girls, whether they were brunette girls, redhead girls, freckled girls, black girls, Asian girls, Hispanic girls, Middle Eastern girls, but none of them were good enough for him. Now, if you look at this young man here, he looks mixed to me. And when I did my research, I learned that he was half Asian on his mother's side. I do believe his mother is from Malaysia. And even the Malaysian, among other Asian persuasions, were not good enough for him. What that tells me is that he hated his mother's side of family, hated his Asian persuasion, hated his Asian admixture, wanted to be a full-blooded white person, and wanted to use the rich blonde girls at UC Santa Barbara to kind of wash out his lineage, wash out the Asian genotype and phenotype from out of his lineage. That's why he was so obsessed with them. His shooting rampage was racially inspired. He was particularly obsessed with rich, blonde white girls in particular, because he felt compelled to whitewash the Asian admixture from his lineage. There is no such thing as an incel. Elliot Rodger was bragging about how he's so rich. He comes from British aristocracy. He drives a BMW, owns a $300, what was that, Giorgio Armani sunglasses, to show you how I don't really care about brand names. I didn't even take note of the brand, but he said it was $300 for it, right? If he had so much money at his disposal, a quick drive down to Figueroa would have solved his incel problems. But he didn't seem particularly concerned with prostitutes or other girls, for that matter, from any other persuasion besides the one with whom he was obsessed. Elliot Rogers' problem was not one of being an incel and not being able to get laid. His problem was his obsession with fitting in to a crowd that was well out of his league. Talking about his BMW, his $300 sunglasses, and any other kind of materialistic wealth he was able to obtain in his very short life. He could have used those things to woo maybe a girl from a poorer background, but even those girls have lots of pride and wouldn't trip over their own shoelace to go be with him because of those reasons. Even some girls from a poorer background have more pride than to let those materialistic values frighten them into being with him, let alone the crowd with whom he was trying to fit in. They have those things too. They have the BMWs. They have the Porsches and the Audis. They have the Giorgio Armani watches and sunglasses and other accessories. They have those things in abundance, maybe more so than he had. So for him to kind of use those things to try and impress them is asinine. They're laughing their ass off. They're bored and jaded with those things by now. They want someone to come with something fresh. They want someone to come with something fresh. They're bored of their BMWs. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of it. But it's true, and it's ironic. They're bored of their BMWs, bored of their little sorority clubs, bored of their HOA control communities, bored of their little toys and all those things and gizmos. They want someone to come with something fresh and something original. So for him to try and impress them with his BMW is asinine. They're not particularly impressed. They were born with a BMW gold key in their mouth. They may have the same as or even greater than him. So for him to believe that they should just fall to their knees and worship the ground he walks on because he has these things, it kind of hints at a delusion. He was delusional that those things somehow made him superior and godlike. He had a god complex, otherwise known as megalomania. He was a megalomaniac, otherwise known as NPD. He was a narcissist and entitled and spoiled. You have real problems in the world. These are what you call first world problems. Those are first world problems. You have people worried about where they're going to get the next meal from, where they're going to buy a pair of shoes to send their kids to school. How they're going to pay the kids' college tuition or even their elementary tuition. Worried about where they're going to catch clean drinking water so they don't get dehydrated. You have parents working overtime to save up enough money to buy a bus pass for their children so that their children no longer have to walk to school. And he's worried about being an incel and not being accepted into the crowd he wants to flex with, to feel special. Dude, give me a break. Get over yourself. Get over, I mean, really, get over yourself. Who do you think you are? So 7 people are dead, including you yourself, Mr. Roger, because you had a first world problem that you were too soft to cope with. You know what your problem is? You never experienced real hardship in life. Those bad, terrible, no good, very bad days, they build character. They build character. You claim to have traveled the world, but you probably never revisited your mother's homeland or anything like it, because you would see real suffering there. You were spoiled. You never had to endure or experience real struggles and suffering. The things that make you tough as a person. Things that build character. Things that create memories so you can have a story to tell about your experiences and your travels and the people you met, the people who inspired you. Your father is a film director. He gets his inspiration to write his storylines from his travels. The apple fell very far from the tree. He gets his inspiration to write his films and direct them from his travels and from the people he met and the people he interacted with and the memories he created. You, sir, were too pampered in life. The apple indeed fell very far from the tree. And yet, in the same breath, it was perhaps the very industry of which your father is a member that inspired your delusions and your train of thought that led to the eventual shooting rampage and your suicide. Perhaps if you would get up more and see how real people interact, you wouldn't be so pompous and have your head in your ass. It is these same Hollywood motion pictures that inspire people to be so pompous and into their looks and, oh, look at me, I'm also Mr. Irresistible. How could you not want me? And they portray these characters to be cool. And it's okay when those characters are doing it, but really and truly, in reality, those characters are very narcissistic and they are on the scene in the public eye for the sake of watering down the seriousness of narcissism and making it seem like it's something cool, thus gaslighting the masses and especially the very young and impressionable to start acting like that. When really and truly, Hollywood should be producing content, common sense content, real world content, to show the world that this is not cool, this behavior is unacceptable. And really and truly, one should be mindful of someone who behaves in this manner. Why would these dark characters appeal to you? Why do you think they're cool? Because they're presented to you as being cool, because they're depicted as being cool characters, as being characters to look up to and to aspire to be like. Why don't you depict them in the very ugly type of way that they really are in reality? Why would no one would want to be around someone so pompous? who got their head in their ass, who is obviously disconnected from reality. Hollywood is largely to blame, though not entirely to blame, for the mentality of one like Elliot Rodger. Start producing content that depicts role models, positive role models that young people can look up to and aspire to be like. And they can still be cool and they can still be powerful, but they just don't have to be so pompous. How about that? That is my Mr. Franklin's challenge to you, Hollywood. What say you? I know that we are maybe overusing Mr. Elliot Rodger as an example here on this channel. But really and truly, for the point of this podcast, I must say that he's not the only one. The original point, there is no such thing as an incel. His story is the best example as to why there is no such thing as an incel. But the other incels who are not so high profile, who are nowhere near as dangerous or as violent, who wouldn't even hurt a fly, but really and truly, they have the same problem. Where there are women who have been showing interest in them, but it kind of went over their heads. Or they didn't care. They thought the girl was ugly or short or something else wrong with her. She's too annoying and, you know, always following him around. Well, you cannot complain, sir. You cannot complain about being an incel if you are shunning girls who are showing interest in you. You think these girls are beneath you. You think you deserve better. How dare the universe insult me with these ugly, short, annoying girls? How dare the universe? Doesn't he know? Don't you get it? I deserve better. I deserve better. Don't you get it? Is the mentality of the pompous fool who portrays himself an incel when really and truly he's just highly picky. You know, funny enough, I was listening to Mr. Tyrone Magnus earlier this afternoon when doing my research for the topic. And Mr. Magnus was saying, on his channel, he was saying, if one finds himself in quite the pickle insofar as dating is concerned, the problem is that you're dating outside of your league. And that what one ought to do is date within their league first, evolve into the best version of yourself, and then level up to what your league would then be once you level up. Then you can date women on that higher level. But really and truly, you're always dating women in your league and on your level. It's just that the women you date would level up along with you as well. Or you meet new people if they don't want to. You meet women on your new heightened level. And I find that to be very interesting, and he's right. Start small. Get the woman in your league. I'm not saying settle down now, you know. I'm not saying settled for any person. If you truly don't like her, you don't like her. Nobody can make you date her, nor should they try. But I'm saying if she's within reason and you have some like for her, she's on your level, she's in your league, date her. Start there, work your way up, and if she's not leveling up with you, then you have the right to... I know this sounds harsh, but listen to me. The reality is, you have the right to move up, to move on to somebody else if she doesn't want to level up. Right? So if you want someone on that higher tier, you have to get to that level first. And you don't get there by leaping in a single bound. You take it to the baby steps first. One step at a time. And every level teaches you something new that you need to build the character you need to actually survive on that level, on that higher level. So work your way up and humble yourself. Humble yourself. Why is this little humble girl who you think is annoying and short and ugly and all these things, why do you think she's not worth anything? She might be worth more. She might be worth more than you could ever possibly know. But now you'll never know because you never gave her the time of day. You never judge a book by its cover. And likewise the females too, insofar as selecting a man is concerned. You never judge a book by its cover. Get to know someone first. That's only fair. But anyway, back to my main point. The woman who you consider below your level may have a lot to offer you to help you advance, but you never know her because you overlooked her. Didn't see the value in her. Now she's gone. Now you missed out on something that could have been the relationship of a lifetime. Definitely date within your league. You will always, you should always be dating within your league. It's just that your league it's just that as you level up, the higher tier women becomes a part of your league too, as you level up. So that was part one of the problem right there. The incel being too pompous and having too many high demands for his level. The incel, so-called incel, overlooking eligible bachelorettes because he wants the higher tier women that he probably truly doesn't deserve. The delusions of grandeur where this so-called incel, who's really a volcel really and truly, because if incel means involuntary celibate, then a voluntary celibate would have to be a volcel, wouldn't it? So these so-called incels are not incels. They're not involuntarily celibate. They're volcels. Their demands are so high that they would rather be single for the rest of their lives than to settle for someone within their league. But then again, why are you complaining? That's what I will never understand. You would rather be single than to date within your league, which in your mind you believe to be out of your league or below your league, because you're so pompous and egotistical and entitled. But then you turn around and complain, and you go on these forums and complain about being this incel and try to garner the sympathies of the public. And really and truly, you are not a victim in all this. You made your bed, now you must lie in it. And it's a cold and lonely bed at that. But you should know. But why are you complaining? You have no right to complain. If that was your choice, you are actually a volcel. So you can't complain about being an incel. But there goes that narcissistic entitlement that made them feel they have the right to complain and be disenchanted and disgruntled, even when it's their own undoing. Even when their undoing is their own doing. To be entitled and to play victim and to garner sympathies and to enjoy the privilege of the victim status of being in this world. You want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to be very picky. Stay by yourself if it means you can't get the girl you want, or if it, or you hold out for the girl you want if it means you have to stay by yourself and stay single. Because that girl probably doesn't exist or she's taken. And you want society to sympathize with you and as you play victim. And when you don't get your way, you get angry, jealous, and arrogant and entitled. And you turn into this poor little shit right here on your screen. And you wonder why you can't get laid or can't get a girlfriend, because something gotta be wrong with someone who thinks like that, or who behaves in this manner. And women have a radar. That's their secret superpower. They have a radar and they can pick up on things. And if they feel there's something off about you, they have a huge incentive to protect their lives and their safety, especially considering that they are the weaker vessel. They have a bigger incentive than we do. It's called women's intuition. So they really have to be on their P's and Q's when dealing with men. It's a lot of weirdos out here. So when they pick up on these things, they will kind of avoid you because they're like, holy shit, that guy's weird. And who could fault them for that? They have a right and a responsibility to protect themselves. Because after all, look at what happens when they don't, or even if they do or they believe themselves safe when really and truly they were not. Look at what happens. As I've said before on this program, if you want clout, do something great with your life. Do something admirable. Do something that will earn you the recognition and the significance that you crave, that you actually really are naturally due, really and truly. But you gotta work for it, as opposed to sitting around feeling entitled to it because you think you're so awesome. What have you done in your very short 22 years of being on this earth that makes you so awesome? What have you really done? What did you do to be considered cool or significant? What have you contributed that makes you so irresistible and so the supreme gentleman, this fabulous guy, as you kept saying? What did you do? That's that narcissistic delusion I'm telling you about. You haven't accomplished anything to be deserving those titles, yet you believe yourself deserving them automatically simply because you're alive and you're breathing. You gotta work for that shit. Let me tell you a story for those who are listening. You see, when Michael Jackson was a young man, this was in the early 80s. He had just recently arrived in Los Angeles in the early 80s, 1981, right? He was very sad, very lonely, and he would often go home to his apartment and lock up in his apartment and cry for being so lonely. And then he made up his mind. He got tired of that shit. And he made up his mind that he's going to be known for something great. And he started working on a single. And that single, the very next year, in 1982, that single ended up being the title for the very best selling album of all time, the Thriller album. The Thriller album was born out of motivation by Michael Jackson to do something great, to put him on the map. A necessity that was born from out of his need to be recognized, because to fill the social gaps of his loneliness as a young man in a town that was probably still very new to him at the time. That is an example of how feelings of emptiness can motivate you to accomplish something great. We have all been there. We know what it's like to be in a new town and not know anybody, not have any friends, and feel empty and alone. Reminds me of being in Brooklyn back in my early 20s. Just recently arrived there from Jamaica. Didn't know anybody. Pretty much on my own. Had no support from the people around me. No support from my family. And it was the hardest thing to get started, but it drove and motivated me to start this channel to tell my story. And those events were over 10 years ago. Over 10, maybe nearly 15 years ago. Inspired me to start this channel, to tell my story, to inspire others and uplift others, that they don't have to end up like this guy on this screen right here. There is help for you. There are things you can do. You don't have to end up a total, utter failure, going down in history as a mass murderer because you feel entitled and you can't get laid. That is not the answer. There is always another way out. There is always another way that doesn't involve the slaying of innocent young girls whose responsibility it was not to fulfill you socially. It was not their responsibility. Why should they now be dead because you felt entitled? That was your responsibility. You figure out what needs to be done to make you significant, if it means that much to you, because some people don't care. So you figure out what needs to be done to put you on the map, and you do it. And you make your product sell, and people will buy. People in general, men, women, elders, minors, children, people in general will see what you're doing and gravitate to you. And whatever it is, it could be a dance move, could be a song, whatever talent you have. Dude probably died and didn't even know what his talents were. And he was supposed to find out what his talents were, work on it, become the best at what he does, and make his product sell. Dude killed himself, didn't even know what his true talent really was. Obviously, he has a way with words. He could have been a brilliant writer and film director like his father. He has a very artistic talent, that means of self-expression. Has a way with words. He could have been a brilliant writer. His feature film could have been a #1 hit at the box office for 3 weeks in a row. He obviously comes from artistic talent, similar to the Jackson family, which is why I use them as an example. He could have turned that into money and clout, but no. His legacy ends at 22 with him going down in history as a damn mass murderer. Could have been great, man. It could have been great. You could have been great. Next year you would have been 30. Born 1991, could have been 30 years old. You would have been 30 years old next year. No telling how your life would have turned out if you just stay the course. Got to stay the course. But like I said before, your problem is that you're too spoiled and too soft. And you think that your first world problems is enough reason to kill people, but you ain't have no problems till you know what real hungry and poverty, third world poverty, feels like. And despair, that's where you learn the truth about despair, when everybody is against you, even your own family members is against you being successful, and they want to ridicule your talent and your best efforts and shame you for having ambition, talking about how, oh, so now you think you're better than us, huh? Now you think you're better than us, huh? Oh, you talk white now, huh? You talk white. You trying to talk white now, talking like you're better than us, huh? Only then will you know what true despair feels like. If you have never experienced that and you have a loving, supportive family, flawed as they might have been, they were still loving and supportive regardless. You, sir, had no problems and certainly no reason to shoot up a damn college campus. Which brings me to my second point of this podcast. Society. There are some men, you see, who are experiencing, they're truly having a hard time getting laid. They're experiencing, they may be the closest things you will find to an incel. Even though I still truly don't believe that there is any such thing as an incel. There is no such thing as an incel, but even so, these men are the closest you will find to an incel, through no fault of their own. But these men would have otherwise been perfectly capable of getting laid because there's nothing wrong with them. They're handsome, they're highly intelligent, they're willing to humble themselves and date within their league, and they're willing to gain clout by actually contributing something of value to society. But they can't get laid. Well, what could be wrong with them? Nothing. Except for one thing, of course. Their circles. Their circle is toxic. They're surrounded by assholes. Toxic people. Dirty people. Grimy people. They're going through the despair of believing something to be wrong with them when really and truly their lives are being sabotaged at every turn. Their job search is being sabotaged. Their finances are being sabotaged. Their apartment hunting is being sabotaged. Car buying is being sabotaged. And their love life is being sabotaged. And why? Because of the same toxic, dirty-ass family members. Well, not even family members. Because blood makes you related, but family makes you... loyalty makes you family. Right? So they're not really family members. They're just DNA sharers. The same DNA sharers among other so-called friends and whoever else is in the community who see you being ambitious, they see you going about your business, and they hate that. They're derelict dusties. They're derelict dusties, and your morning star shines a big bright light on their demons and their darkness. And they hate that. And they're allergic to your success and your happiness. So, they start talking crazy like this. Oh, so now you think you're better than us, huh? Oh, so you're trying to talk white now, huh? Oh, so because you think you got a college degree, you think you're some big doctor now, huh? Or a big lawyer now, huh? And sometimes they say it as a joke, or half jokingly, but they're not joking. Because not too long afterwards, you come under attack for the things that you're doing. And you think they're mad about something else? No. Or you think that your failures and fuck-ups are just an accident? No, you're being sabotaged. But guess what though? The good news is, your greatest wealth in that situation is your wits. Understand who the fuck you're dealing with. Understand your circles. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Sometimes we talk entirely too much. We tell on ourselves. And then when we're being sabotaged and our lives are falling apart all around us, we wonder why. Someone has advanced knowledge of your plans based on you talking too much, and you think you're cool with that person, but that person is cool with somebody who you're not cool with. So guess who they're telling? Guess who they're telling? The person who you know to be a narcissist, you know to be an asshole. The sly, surreptitious, covert narcissist is friending you up to gain intel to go and tell the overt, in-your-face asshole narcissist to sabotage your life. And here you are now in despair, believing yourself to be this incel, can't get a job, can't get laid, nobody like my ass. Well, geez, I wonder why. I'm not saying it's your fault, I'm saying why. Here is my suggestion to you. Stop telling people your plans and see how quickly you don't gain success in this world. Then you will know for sure whether it was them or you all along. And once you gain success, go complete no contact. Move to a different part of town if you love that town so much, or move out of town, or even out of state for that matter. And then disconnect them, block them from your phone and your social media. They can't text you, they can't see what you're doing on social media. Block them. Go complete no contact from everybody who you ever met through them. Try and get your mind right and your perception of reality right, because you've probably even been gaslit, so you probably don't have the very best sense of reality. So try and get your mind right and unlearn all the toxicities that you learned when you were in with them. Try to learn proper etiquette in the right way in which to deal with people, which would improve your chances of having a more fulfilling social life. And then try and date somebody and see if your situation will not improve. And if it does improve exponentially, you know that it wasn't you all along. You know it was the people around you, your so-called family members, your DNA sharers, your so-called friends, the so-called people at your school or your job or your co-workers or whatever it is, and even people in your community at large. It might have been a whole entire community effort. You don't know how far someone would have been willing to go just to sabotage your whole entire life for whatever little minor infractions you didn't even know that you did. That's how crazy people are. People are crazy out here. And now your whole life ruined forever, and your whole mind is fucked up believing that you're some failure or some incel because some jealous person believes you did something wrong to them. And it could be something as simple as you not telling them good morning one day. Maybe you were busy doing something and they felt rejected because somehow the whole world revolves around them, right? You see, that's the kind of narcissist I'm talking about right here. You will never reach anywhere in life if you stay around them. You have to get rid of them. They're the problem, not you. You're not the problem. They're the problem. They gotta go. And don't tell me about this forgiveness bullshit. Oh, they're still family regardless. No, that's the problem. That's the problem why they're able to do their dirt and keep doing their dirt because of this whole forgiveness bullshit. Forgiveness is the second most prostituted word in the English language next to family. And both supports the narcissist's impunity to keep affecting your life, and you can't fight back because they're family. No, family is two-sided. It's two-sided, not one-sided. What they want is the one-sided family where you keep serving, and they keep taking. What have they done? If they truly believe that you're family or whatever, what have they done to support your life or serve you? Why are you the other one who's giving? At the moment you see a pattern like that, understand your role. You're the scapegoat and you're the one who's supposed to be serving and doing things. They gotta go. They're toxic. If you believed yourself to be an incel at some point in your life, especially in your early life, in your early adult life, it's probably because of people like that. Probably, most likely. They gotta go. As a society, we must learn to be kinder to each other. Perfectly normal people who are being bullied and made into an incel when they otherwise would not have been, is those are the kinds of situations that gives birth to the likes of an Elliot Rodger, for example. And if we could stop doing that to people and learn to be kinder, we can reduce the likelihood of another Isla Vista tragedy taking place in our country and in our schools. Yes, they're pompous. Yes, their chest is too high. Yes, their demands are too high. But we can do our part too, as a society. It has to be a group effort. We have to do our part to help guide them, especially when they're young. They don't know any better. We have to help guide them with channels like these, for example, in the right direction. Because trust and believe, there are other Elliot Rodgers out there in the world. And like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, that is truly cringeworthy and scary. That there are others out there who are inspired, who are copycats. So before we have another tragedy like the Elliot Rodger Isla Vista shooting rampage, we can do our part to help teach them and set them in the right direction and put them on the right path. That they can be more productive citizens in general and make their contributions and leave their marks in general. And when they do get laid, it will be simply a reward for what they were supposed to be doing regardless. In general. It's just it's just a reward. They shouldn't be doing it to get laid. They should be getting laid as a reward for doing what they were supposed to do, regardless. Teach them the right ways how to cloud chase and be significant and gain significance in this world. A few months ago, right here in Los Angeles, when Kobe Bryant died, supposing you saw the outpouring of love and support from every nation, creed, and language here on earth over a black man who was so-called, not he himself personally, but of course, who is a member of a group who is so-called supposed to be the most hated group on earth. And yes, in many cases that's still true, but because he left his mark and left his legacy and was significant and earned his significance, Kobe Bryant was loved by all when his life was tragically cut short in January. If you want that kind of outpouring of love and support also, albeit while you can still smell the roses, of course, but even when you're gone too, either or, teach the youths how to gain his significance and leave his mark in this world. The girls will come naturally. They love innovative young men who put their projects and their missions ahead of getting laid. Teach the young people about that. And if you see someone being bullied, help and gaslit, bullied and gaslit, help them to clear the fog in their minds and raise awareness of what they're going through. And do your part to not smear someone's reputation and spread lies about them, hoping that the entire village abstain from them, and so that they end up being not only an incel, but also socially isolated in general. And do your part to uncover and expose any agenda that you're aware of where someone wishes to do that to somebody, because it's a very wicked thing to do, and it is born out of insecurity. The perpetrators have insecurities of their own, and they feel you don't deserve what you're about to experience. It's that experience is too good for you. You're nobody. So they cut you down and they smear your name and they make it look like a weird character, hoping that people will abstain. Help to raise awareness that these agendas to incelize a non-incel does exist. But the very target of that agenda can also do his part. The moment you realize that everybody in your town is on code insofar as that agenda is concerned, first of all, that there is an agenda, and secondly, that everybody who you meet is on code with the agenda, you have to do your part to break contact with them, branch off on your own, and stay no contact. These people will never change. They only switch tactics. Anybody who's that much on code is not going to abandon their agenda just because you're uncomfortable or just because you ask them nicely to stop doing what they're doing. They're just going to change tactics. These people are terminators, as Alder Matthews often says on his channel. They do not stop. They just keep going and going and going. You have to have the common sense and the wits. You know, your single greatest asset right now in life, your single greatest currency is your wits. You have to use your wits to know what the fuck you're dealing with and stay away from people who are hell-bent on ruining your life and incelizing he who is not an incel. Now, if you're having a hard time getting laid, there are things you can do to cope in the meantime. If you are voluntarily abstaining from traditional relationships to work on your personal goals, you still deserve as a man to have your sexual needs met. Never let society bully you into abstaining from having your needs met just because you're so-called working on your goals. Especially when they don't even care whether or not you achieve your goals. They just don't want you getting laid. You see, even that's a part of the incelization agenda as well. So recognize the intent behind that bad advice that's been given to you. Many people give you deliberately bad advice to trip you up in life. Be very aware of that. But anyway, back to my original point, there are things you can do to have your sexual needs met in the interim until you're able to find a more permanent relationship partner. And with that said, next week's topic: the professional girlfriend and the conditions of forgiveness for using her services. I hope you join me then. I am Mr. Franklin. This has been Frank and Upfront.